Good evening and welcome to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'm your host, Gary Morgan. With me, as always, is my friend and co-host, Jim Stamm. Jim, how are you, brother?
I'm doing good. From the looks of my screen here, it looks like we're letting anybody in here for guests, I take it?
Well, he had us over not very long ago, so it's only fair, right? We gave him a little taste with Call Your Shot, and now we want to be on. I get it. So joining us this week is our good friend, producer, and in general baseball fan who's just coming out of hiding, Eddie Provident. Eddie, long time no talk, brother. How are you?
Man, it is good to be here, guys. And I had to pick the best week pretty much of the last 2 or 3 seasons, right? I mean, you'd have to think. I mean, this has been a baseball lover's dream these last couple of weeks here in Pittsburgh, at least the last week.
It's been pretty great, man. Super exciting to watch and everything. And speaking of that, Oneil Cruz's arrival to this team has, I think, changed the mix a little bit in the fan base. We're starting to see some younger kids now. I'm getting followed by some high school kids now. They're like talking baseball and stuff, and it's pretty cool. And I thought, there's also a lot of people returning that have kind of turned away for a long time, and now they all want to see the freak show, right? Mm-hmm. So they're coming in and starting to ask questions and wonder where this guy came from and how he got here. So I figured, boys and girls, this is a great place to put a pin in. Oneil Cruz is here now, and I think we should do a real quick reset. Real quick, broad strokes look at how we got here, because if you don't know where you've been, how the hell do you know where you're going? I mean, I think it's time. So any opposition to that, Jim? Eddie, you good with that?
Let's do it.
I mean, where do we start? The story all starts in 2019, right? The wheels fell off. And I still firmly believe if people didn't raise hell, they probably would have stopped at Hurdle getting fired. But it didn't. On come Cherington. And I mean broad strokes, folks. We're just skipping over a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, because just saying mildly that the wheels fell off, that's probably not exactly descriptive enough.
That's a normal Thursday in my life, man. The wheels came off. That's.
I figured we'd start with Cherington coming in and kind of what he looked at. He looked at his team. When we say the cupboard was bare for Huntington, don't you think we're really kind of saying there wasn't any reinforcements close enough to help what was there, and they couldn't afford to get where they needed to get?
Yeah, I think a lot of people love to just compare them straight up. Really, really different situations, in my opinion. And we don't need to rehash all of it, but to me, they walked into Cherington walked into a different situation than currently what Neil Huntington was staring at.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that it's a competition between which one of them walked into a worse situation, right? But as soon as they looked at the situation that was there and present, and their real talent, Oneil Cruz, maybe Mitch Keller, a couple other guys, were right there, maybe a couple steps away. There wasn't enough to help make that team into a real winner.
And also,
at least not long.
If I can interject real quick, everybody's so quick to crap on Neil Huntington. Let's not forget that he was the architect behind the first playoff appearance and 2 other playoff appearances for the first time in over 20 years. Was it 21, 22 years worth of really bad baseball. So there's a lot to be said about Neil Huntington, but before we get into all of that and we compare him to Ben Cherington, what's going on now and how things ended, it's kind of the same thing with Jim Rutherford on the Penguins side. Remember the good things that this guy did do. He was a part of some really good baseball here in Pittsburgh.
He was,
and
fair. A lot of those parts got moved out. So that's what happened. They evaluated. They said, we can't go forward from here, and we're too far away to bring anything up and replace it. We got to start over.
Yep.
They bought into it. They did it. You can agree with that, disagree with it. That's what happened. That's all we're talking about now. We're not telling you that was the right path. I'm telling you this was the path. They sold Marte. They sold Bell, Frazier, Musgrove. Name anybody else you think I forgot that's gone. That's how they got a lot of the guys you're seeing right now. And then you have Huntington holdovers.
Yeah.
That cupboard wasn't bare.
No, it wasn't.
The cupboard was just real friggin' deep, and we all had short arms.
Now
they're here.
When I worked in construction, I worked for a brick mason for a couple summers out of high school, and we used to rebuild walls. And the first thing you have to do when you rebuild a wall, right, Gary? Jim?
Yes.
You have to tear the whole thing down. You can't leave some of it. You've got to tear the whole thing down. And I was excited to see the Pirates tear the whole thing down. When they started going on this selling spree, I wasn't upset about it. I wasn't frustrated about it. To me, it was kind of like, all right, finally they're getting they're getting off of the fence. They're going to one side and they're just saying, we're going all in with this. Whether it works or not, we don't know. We'll find out in 5-10 years, but we're at least going to do everything that we can to bring in new, fresh talent. And that's exactly what they did. Gary, I saw you have an argument with somebody, or maybe it was DK. I can't remember. It was one of the two of you. I get you two mixed up all the time, you and DK. But somebody was talking about the McCutchen trade and how frustrating it was to see someone like McCutchen get sold off. And then in the same tweet had talked about, they're going to do the same thing with Brian Reynolds.
I mean,
come on, man. Like, at least know the history. You know what I mean?
I mean, like, to me, I guess I don't even care that people get upset about stuff like that. I don't expect people to pay attention to the transactions the way I do. What I'm saying here, Jim, is I think we need to be a welcoming fan base, because this ownership pushed people to the limit.
Sure.
And they lost a lot of fans. So if somebody's going to come back, I don't want to just smack them in the nose for not knowing what happened 3 months ago, right?
And we all know somebody too. We all know at least one person.
Yeah. I mean, it is one of those things where I think you've got to look. People stepped away from it for their own mental health, apparently.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do that, but on much smaller, in much smaller doses. When I got to take a game off. I cannot watch a game. But people have done it, for years here. I can't say that I blame them. And hey, if they come back and they're not really aware of how we got O'Neal Cruz, or how, like Eddie said, we got Brian Reynolds, and kind of where things are right now, that's okay. I'm not going to jump all over anybody right now, because there's still a lot left to be said. What am I going to gloat about right now anyway?
Yeah, the other thing is true too, Eddie. I mean, they could have done this differently.
Yeah,
they absolutely could have. Now, I happen to have been for quite some time looking for a complete burn down the bridges rebuild, and I was very happy they did it. But that doesn't mean that you have to enjoy this process.
I recall a certain conversation at Panera the first time you and I really hung out with each other, where we both were excited that this was happening. And, a lot of the stuff that you said in that conversation was, they're in that process now. So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely tons of ways that they could have done this. But, I think the way that – and here's the other thing, the way that MLB is structured right now, this is really the only way for a small market team. And I hate that terminology, but this is really the only way they can do it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. We need to take a quick break here. And when we come back, I think we need to understand that this team's going to start getting some more national coverage too. You're going to start seeing them in ESPN headlines and everything. Let's talk a little bit about how the game changes a little bit for everybody that's been observing them. Welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports, and welcome back to watching the Pittsburgh Pirates. If you're just joining us, we just spent a little bit of time recapping how we got here. And when I mean little bit of time, yeah, we missed some details. We missed a lot of tears and blood and sweat. And so did the national media, boys, because the team has officially entered the interesting to the common fan era of this build, I think, with the addition of O'Neal Cruz. You can always tell when ESPN starts mentioning the team, when it's acceptable for them to be no longer the laughing stock and now somebody to at least pay a little bit of attention to because they're kind of fun. So, Jim, how do you feel about that when you start seeing them come up nationally again? Does it fill you with pride the way it does, like when you see the Steelers mentioned nationally, or is it more, oh man, they don't know what's happened here, they haven't paid attention?
You know, I can accept that from the national media. I think it's the local media that kind of gets under my skin when it starts on down that road.
Bingo,
But
Jim.
yeah, but before we get to that, let me just say how much I'm enjoying watching O'Neal Cruz. I don't have to make big proclamations
Yeah.
about what he is or what he could be, or
You mean he's
any.
not a Gold Glover after his one diving catch?
Well, that
It
is
did look
something that,
great.
yeah. I mean, hey, each to their own. But for me, I'm just going to enjoy him. He is he is a rock star, and
Yeah.
you can't take your eyes off of him because you're just never sure what you're going to see. And I do think we're going to still see some bumps along the road because that's just baseball in general. But he's a rock star, and when you see ESPN start looking at him, I mean, to me, he's like, man, if he fills out at all, he's going to look like the Predator in a baseball uniform. Which I want to see somebody do a little bit of GIF with that or something because I'm
I
just
love
not.
it, man.
Yeah,
I
but
love
no,
it.
like, so he's one of those can't take your eyes off guys, and I love that nationally, he's getting that attention, which means the Pirates are getting that attention, and I'm just
Right.
I'm just happy about that. I'm just gonna try to enjoy it. I know that doesn't make sense these days.
And Jim, it's
Uh,
how he's doing it too, man. Like, his season debut, he comes up, has the hardest throw, of any infielder in baseball, hits the hardest ball of any Pirate this season. He running the bases faster than any sprint from any other major leaguer. Like, it's not that
Yeah,
he's doing it and like just barely getting it done. Like, he's doing things that I don't think baseball fans have seen in a very long time. I'm going to bring up a name, and people could say whatever they want about this. People can laugh at me. People can do and say what they want. I don't care. I think he's a taller version and a more wiry version of Bo Jackson when it comes to his athleticism. If he pans out, he's fast. He can hit for power. He can hit for contact. He can throw the ball a mile. He does all of these things well, and I think that now we're seeing why the Pirates want to move him to the outfield, because he's such a freakish athlete with such a strong arm. He probably could play the outfield better than any player in the organization just on his pure athleticism alone if he would ever learn it. That I think we're finally seeing what the Pirates organization has got to see from O'Neal Cruz. And I don't want to be one of those Cody Duncans. I don't care if I'm calling people out. I'm coming in here like a wrecking ball. I don't want to be one of those people who just, from Rum Bunner, where like, he's an all-star. He's a Gold Glover. He's this, he's that. He's going to be the best thing ever. No, I don't want to sound like that, but you have to acknowledge his freakish athleticism. If this dude was
Eddie
a football
just out
player,
here laying the wood.
yeah. I mean, look,
if he was a
it's
football player, if he was a hockey player, if he was a basketball player, we would be talking about how freakish of an athlete he is. But because he's a baseball player, it's like, oh, we can't do that yet because he's only 6 games in, 5
Yeah,
games in.
we probably
No,
wouldn't be talking
screw
about
this.
him if
Come
he was a basketball player, though.
yeah,
We're in Pittsburgh, so
screw that. Screw
look,
that.
look.
This dude is good. He's an athlete. He's a freak. He comes around once a generation. Let's be, like you said, Jim, let's enjoy it and be excited about it. And if this dude's good and if he can do these things and he's already doing them, who cares?
The skill set is completely intoxicating, and
Yeah.
and all the guys
any
that have been around forever will already be way in front of this new fan base by already predicting his departure.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, we can't. Yeah, God, whether it's our fan base or others. It's
No, but
just
that's
that,
the point. Like this is a whole melting pot of different kinds of fans that get created when you start coming out of one of these rebuilds. There's going to be new national fans that just latch on to a player like O'Neal Cruz and want to watch him play. Right? They're going to come out of the woodwork. You're going to probably have new podcasts start spawning all over town, and I would fully expect that, for real. And honestly, we welcome it. Like, for real, bring it on if you know what you're talking about.
I mean,
we want more good stuff, not worse.
He has 9 ribbies in 5 career games. I mean, that counts for something to me. I mean, it's only 5 career games.
It's one player, and he's on a team that has no guarantee of building around him the way they should. And we hope they do. Yeah. I think I like what I see coming.
I'm cautiously optimistic, but yeah, I'm with you. There's no guarantee.
Yeah, it's just going to be weird, like the way that we have to potentially help to bring along people a little bit that haven't really been paying attention.
Can I give you
when we talk about subjects, we have to almost backtrack a little bit sometimes.
Can I give you the guitar player analogy of this?
Sure.
So there's a joke amongst guitar players that you can tell what effects pedal a guitar player bought most recently, because that's the only effects pedal that you hear in their mix. So, that's like their new favorite toy. Let Pirates fans have their new favorite toy right now. All you're going to hear about is O'Neal Cruz. You're probably going to hear a little bit about Bly Madris because he should be getting some shine too. We've got all of these new players coming in, all these young players that we've heard so much about. Now they're finally here in Pittsburgh. Will you please just let us enjoy what we have for once? We went through 21 years of sucky baseball. We had 3 good years of baseball. Then we went through another 6 or 7 years of sucky baseball. We have one thing, and it's O'Neal Cruz right now. Let us have our one thing, please. Let us be excited.
Well, I'm sorry. He's already been proposed in a few Yankees blogs. So, I mean, there it is.
Listen, I don't want to gloss over, and we touched on a little bit with the Rum Bunters of the world and the Codys of the world, but also, too, we're talking even the Ponies and the Maddens and, and
the whole 93.7 The Fan crew.
Yeah, you've already started to see that.
I mean, you can always tell when something's going on with the Pirates because people that don't talk about them and don't know a whole heck of a lot about them, you start hearing them talk about it, and then you can just sit back and snicker a little bit.
Yep.
So, because you're going to hear the wild trade proposals and the people coming out of the blue. And I guarantee this offseason, the thing we're going to hear the most is that now's the time to go out and make a big splash, right? Big splash. You need that $25 million pitcher. And I would say look at the free agent board before you say it because they're gross right now. You wouldn't do that.
Also, just a little aside on that, Gary, and this is a legitimate question for both of you because you probably would know this better than not probably. You definitely would know this better than me. When was the last time that a team like the Pirates went out and spent $25-30 million on a pitcher and it actually worked?
It hasn't been working for the teams that spend it.
Exactly.
Until very recently with the Yankees. Yeah.
So, I mean, why do it? Play the slow game.
They won't. So let's not worry about it. But I know the point is it's going to be a changing landscape. I think it's going to be a fun ride if we all let it be. Just be patient out there when new people ask weird questions because not everybody's been here all along. And I think if we're not open to it, you're never going to see that stadium as full as you'd like to, so you can quit saying you're embarrassed by it. Let's take another quick break. When we come back, we'll do Call Your Shot. To the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. And now we're going to go away again and take a quick break so that we can bring in the Call Your Shot because, I got to give Andrew a couple seconds here.
Happy Cruise Day, gentlemen. Excited to see our future right fielder in action tonight. But question I had for you guys is: are they keeping him at short because they know he's going to create some errors, and that'll give them a reason to send him back down, or are they going to let him work those things out here and start to work him in the outfield eventually? Curious your thoughts on that. Hopefully the errors just magically disappear and he's, Hall of Fame shortstop. But we all know that's probably not going to happen, and we do have to prepare for the inevitable move to the outfield. So, what's that look like in a year or two? And do they send him back down with the error problem and work him in the outfield? Thanks, guys. Keep it up.
All right, and that's Call Your Shot. It's our buddy Jay. Figured I'd get right into it because, you're never going to get a hotter time than to talk about Cruz and his defensive abilities than right after what we just have watched over the past few days here. And admittedly, this came into me, I think, right after news broke that Cruz was getting called up. So our buddy Jay hadn't had a chance to see him yet. Maybe his opinion has changed a little bit. But, Cruz has shown you why he's so intriguing already there, Jay. The arm strength, in my opinion, has made up for poor technique. He double clutches, he crow hops his way before firing a laser across, and it works. But if he cleans up the technique, it just won't be needed as often.
Mm-hmm.
That said, he isn't going back down unless he were to catastrophically melt down. Eddie, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to what Shelton said, they expect him to play shortstop for now, is I believe a close quote of what what Shelton said a couple nights ago. I don't know that they're purposely letting him play shortstop just so he could bury himself into the outfield. I don't think that's the case. I think that was the terminology Jay used, or to kind of play his way out of shortstop. I don't think any major league team, even if you don't care as much as the Pirates do right now about wins and losses, I don't think that that's what any major league team would do, because that's when you start messing with a guy's confidence and whether or not he can play the field and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think that's the case. I think they genuinely want to see how he does at the professional level, at the major league level as a shortstop. I think that just because he's not the prototypical shortstop body doesn't mean that he can't play shortstop in the major leagues. Like you said, there's a lot of technique issues there, and there's a lot of maybe some fundamental stuff there that needs to be cleaned up. But again, going back to his raw talent, you can't just roll him out as not being an everyday shortstop because of what he can do. And the last thing I'll say before I give it to Jim is we actually heard John Baker say that about his batting. Alex Stumpf asked him asked Baker a question a couple weeks ago about O'Neal Cruz's his approach at the plate. And Baker had a really good comment about it, basically saying, look, we want to teach him, like, hey, this is a ball you should swing at. This is a ball you shouldn't swing at. This is the approach that you should have. But at the same time, when you just have that God-given ability to go down at your ankles and, poke one 420 feet, there's some coaching that just has to be set to the side when you have a guy that can do special things like that. I think it's the same thing on the defensive side of the ball. There's a lot of, like you said, Gary, there's a lot of technique stuff, but there's also a lot of athleticism that makes up for it. And sometimes you just got to let him be an athlete.
Yeah, it's funny. I was going to take it to people get very focused on his defense. But there are so many parallels to when you watch him offensively.
Mm-hmm.
Even today, in the game we just watched, he smoked the ball off the center field wall, and that was to the right center field of things. And that was
First
an outside
fastball he's seen in about 3 games.
Yeah, and that was an outside pitch, and he had his weight shifted the wrong way, and he still was able to do it. Great. Sometimes God-given ability will just take over and make up for things. And that's what's going to happen on defense here for a while too. And look, this is the time to find out this kind of year. We've referenced this player-centric culture for how long. He wants to play shortstop. They're going to throw him in there and let him sink or swim. I think that's exactly what you should do with it. And if they have to do anything, if they don't have to do anything fantastic, if they have to, he'll know at that point in time that he was given the opportunity. So I just think it's going to work itself out, and we'll see. I still don't have any big idea yet of whether it's going to happen or not.
I think it's fair to say too, when the open fan pitching to move him to the outfield started, I think it started more out of a fear that the Pirates didn't have any outfielders coming.
That's a good point.
And man, I really feel like that has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, when I'm hearing like, "Oh, put O'Neill out in left field," for who? I mean, like, I want Jack Swinsky to play still.
Yeah.
Kind of like what I'm seeing from Bly Madris. Cal Mitchell's not chopped liver. There's that Swaggerty kid.
You're not putting him in center.
At some point, somebody might want to try again. There's Frazier, Gorski. I mean, like, do I need to put O'Neill Cruz out there? No.
Yeah.
This is
and Figueroa's got just as many errors. Calm down.
This is his audition. This is his tryout. It is a 90 game look at it. I hope they actually do give him a few starts here or there somewhere else. But this is what I want to see. I want to see if he can do it.
Yeah.
I want to know at the end of this year whether it's viable long term before things start getting a little more important with the wins and losses part of things.
I mean, I have a feeling that question will probably be a very gray answer by the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that he'll have done enough that, let's just say, you're not going to be concerned about whether he will be a successful baseball player or not.
No, and I think
it just of this season.
Yeah, and I think what it does is it'll just point you in the better direction of what you might be able to expect long term.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think that's a fair answer to it too. The only other thing I could really say to answer that question at all is, you don't bring a kid up like this under the circumstances you brought him up under when you intentionally were messing with him,
right?
And then send him back down.
No.
When you're only doing this because you're that for sure that he's for keeps.
Yep. And so here's a question for both of you, and I think this would be a really good segue into kind of what we were hinting at talking about at the break, guys. Is so obviously we don't see this team unless there's a miracle. We don't see this team competing this year, probably not next year either. For a legitimate playoff spot. So when you look at this lineup, though, if you just go down the lineup right now, you've got Sawinski, you've got Reynolds, you've got Bly Madris, you've got O'Neill Cruz. You're starting to put together a decent lineup. Keep Brian Hayes. Hopefully he's okay. By the way, I know he looked like he was a little dinged up there at the end of the game today. Or Thursday. So hopefully he's okay. But you've got like 5 or 6 players now. And I would throw Kyle Mitchell in that too, because I like the way he looks with this team. I like the way, maybe he's not an everyday player, but I like the way he looks. I like the way he slots in as kind of a rotational guy, or like that utility guy in the outfield. What's realistic expectations for this team over the next 2 years for you two guys? Because I think flirting with 500 and even being in that like wild card race, even if they don't get it, the way this lineup is built, if you get any kind of pitching, I'm starting to think that when these guys start to gel, that's not completely out of the realm of possibility for this team in the next 2 years.
I'll go back to what I wrote first in 2020. This year will be fun. Next year will be 500 in a wild card. That's what I think will happen next year.
Jim?
They'll be right there for the wild card. 500 pretty much gets you in the wild card with the expanded playoffs. What do you think, man?
Big thing here is too with this division, and it's not a strong division, so that could change things a little bit as far as how quickly they are in the conversation for a wild card. I think this off season is kind of a big. I gotta see what they're doing this off season before I make any huge predictions. I do think they'll probably be closer to a 500 team next year, and if they are, I am fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to get out of the situation where we are seeing any more retreads at all.
Yeah.
Whether it's in,
No,
I
I'm
don't
with
want to
you there.
see, I don't want to see another Yu Chang. I do not want to see another Jared Eichhoff. Those days to me must be over by next year.
I bet they aren't though, because let's be completely transparent there. Wouldn't you call Jose Quintana a retread?
Yes, but at least there was some pedigree there at one point. Now,
So retreads with pedigree are okay, but retreads more like trying to resurrect someone else's prospect.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean that's kind of what they did, in 13, 14, and 15. I mean, if you look at I wouldn't call Burnett a retread necessarily, but like he wasn't he kind of resurrected his career. We saw it with
Liriano
was that, yeah.
And I mean, like you can get lucky with guys.
What was it?
Edison
Volquez was the other one. I mean, like where he came here, kind of hit a reset button. I'm okay with that kind of stuff. Like, but what Jim is saying, the Yu Changs, I would even throw Yoshi Shitsugo in that category. Like,
that's what I want to.
I don't want to see these guys.
That's what I want to be.
Yoshi was a legit shot at getting an affordable power bat in a position of need. And I guess, like, as long as they do the right thing and cut bait when they should, I'm not going to get on them about taking a swing. If they want to try somebody like that, they thought he was worth $4 million.
Hey, let them call their shot.
Whatever. They tried. Now, as long as they do the right thing. Now, if they're going to try to make him work off his $4 million at the expense of getting some crap lottery ticket that will never pan out, I just don't. I'd rather them just get rid of him.
The reason I asked the question is I think it's important, especially with all of the new fans coming on board. Well, I wouldn't say new fans, but like new old fans that are coming on board. I think it's really important that shows like this, and I think you guys do a really good job of this, setting realistic expectations for people that are just coming in and maybe don't have all the answers, who don't follow it as closely as you two do. And I mean, even guys like me who are kind of like, one leg in, one leg out. Like, I don't know every single, minor league prospect. I don't know every single pitching prospect. I don't know every single thing that there is to know. And so that setting that realistic expectation, I think, and being honest and upfront with how we're looking at this baseball team is really important if the fan base is going to grow.
This show, as Jim has said multiple times, has always been about just trying to connect fans and give them a place to actually talk about baseball without all the noise that you hear all the time. And what people perceive as media fights, like when we get on somebody like a Cody Duncan or whatever, it's not that I care that he comes out with something first. I could care less.
And to be clear, I don't think any of us dislike Cody as a person. We don't know him.
I don't know the guy.
Zero.
This is strictly baseball.
The reason that we get irritated is because I do know, going through this process, that there will be new fans that come on board. And when I've got somebody screaming constantly that they're going to win the World Series in 2023, when I know that's complete and utter bullshit, and making out a lineup with 2021 draft picks already in it a year in the future, I don't want those young and or haven't been paying attention to the game fans to come on board and see some moron screaming that stuff, so that I can look like I'm pessimistic about the team because I don't agree that Nick Gonzalez will automatically jump to the starting lineup in 2022. That's why we get mad.
Yep.
100%. I mean, like, you get irritated with other people that are constantly, oh, Charrington's definitely going to trade Reynolds this trade deadline. No, he's not. Look at what is happening on the team. That is not what he's doing.
Listen to how excited Brian Reynolds was the other night when he was talking about it. He was the one that said we're close.
That kind of stuff is the crap.
Yeah.
That happens and just captures these fans that haven't been paying attention, and they finally do start paying attention, and they wander down the wrong dark alley and run into one of these morons that's telling them just garbage.
Yeah.
Absolute garbage.
Yep.
Or they accidentally turn on the fan, Jim, and all of a sudden there's Pony proposing a trade of their brand new favorite player they just recognized for the first time.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
why we get mad about it.
And
It ain't
look,
about competition.
and we hammer people on both sides, whether you're overly optimistic or overly pessimistic. I feel like, if you don't meet, I think we try to hit the reasonable spectrum here and the unbiased, approach to things. And that's the standard that I want us to keep. It's the standard I want our guests to keep. And that's what I think fans deserve. And if other people that are trying to do this don't want to meet that, that's what I have a problem with.
Yeah.
It's the information you're putting out there.
It's not about a difference of opinion either.
It isn't. No, that's a
difference.
That's
as long as you're looking at the right evidence and you come to a different conclusion,
cool.
Good for you.
Cool. Oh, look, Gary. I mean, look at us sitting down and having a conversation about David Bednar.
Absolutely.
Look, we could take opposite sides on that position and probably sound pretty convincing. And you know why? Because you can make good arguments for topics that don't always have this absolute right or wrongness to them. And you have to be willing to look at things with an open mind and call things as you see them. And we just don't have enough of that. And it's something that I feel like anybody that wants to come jump in this thing now, I just want them to be hitting the ground running with some good information. And then that way they're not sitting here wondering why it is 2023 and this team isn't, winning the division yet.
Exactly, Jim. And the last thing that I'll say is this. I've played baseball for 12 or 13 years. And I fell in love with baseball, not so much because it's the most fun sport to play or to watch, because for me that's always been hockey. I fell in love with baseball because of how poetic this game is. And if you are a new fan, or if you left the game because the Pirates have frustrated you for however long, and now you're starting to kind of like dip your toes back into the swimming pool, Sunday and Monday are the epitome of why I'm a baseball fan. Jack Sawinski hits 3 home runs, hits the walk-off home run on Father's Day with his dad in attendance. It is the most storybook thing that you could possibly get out of a baseball game. And then Monday, O'Neal Cruz comes up and Bly Madriz comes up, and they just absolutely steal the show. And the Pirates have their biggest win of the season. And it's the young guys that are doing it. To me, like, Sunday and Monday is the exact reason why I could never stop watching baseball and I can never stop loving baseball. And if you're one of those people that are on the fence about should you, go through these, kind of like lean years as a Pirates fan, you get these stories in baseball that you just don't get anywhere else. And that is why I want to come on this show and talk with you guys. And that's why I listen to you guys and listen to other people talk about baseball, and I watch the game, because there's something so special about those 2 days, like those 2 days, that nothing that happens the rest of the season will take away what happened Sunday and Monday for me. That's why I'm a baseball fan. That's why you should be too.
You were there, right?
I was there for both games, and I said,
dude, I'm so jealous of you, by the way.
Listen, I said after the Sawinski game, I said that's a top 5 game for me to be in attendance for. I really felt that. And then, we decided kind of on a whim to go back down on Monday night, and 2 of the most enjoyable nights I've had at the ballpark. And that is something I do want to tell any fans that are thinking about getting back on board. It's a pretty good time to do it.
And look what that's going to do for your kid, man.
Yeah, you can go down and see some players that really might have a future in Major League Baseball, and some special guys. And it was just so enjoyable. So I would, hey, people, if you're not ready to go down, you're not ready to buy in, I can tell you can still have a pretty good night going down and seeing some better baseball right now.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's really the moral of the story. The Pirates are going to be more fun. Be a welcoming community.
Absolutely, man.
Be what Pittsburgh is, man. Like, let people in. Let kids come in and say something stupid, and don't pound them with, that's a dumb trade proposal. Like, talk with them about it.
Let people
Somebody
enjoy the
doesn't
new
understand
toys,
a
man.
rule, help them understand the rule.
Yep.
Baseball's stupid. It has too many rules. Help them understand it. You know, explain to somebody how a win is credited to a pitcher.
Yep.
Don't just dismiss them as being dumb or not worth your time. Because if you're welcoming, you know, you can help build this community back up. And that's really what I started doing, everything that I do for the Pirates community, because I wanted to rebuild it.
Mm-hmm.
I hated what was out there.
Well, you told me on the golf course you're a hockey guy.
Hockey's my favorite to root for.
And so yeah, like I mean, you know, to take that up and say, I'm going to fix this baseball community, or at least be a part of fixing this baseball community. I mean, we need it, man. We need guys like you. We both of you. I mean, I know I'm not. I mean, I produced the show.
There's a lot of good ones out there, though.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good ones out there. That's what we need to do, is just keep it up. Keep pumping the community and let everybody have a nice welcoming place to come and learn about baseball and watch it, follow the team. Don't hear hot takes and garbage.
I just don't want people to think that I'm pumping you guys up because you're on our network and that I produced the show. I want people to understand, like, I listened to Gary and Jim and Graves when she was doing it with you guys regularly. Side note, shout out to Graves. I miss you, Graves. I hope you're doing well. I genuinely enjoy listening to you guys talk baseball, and I wouldn't come on the show if I didn't. I wouldn't pour into what the little bit I pour in to help you guys out. I wouldn't do that. And I want people to know it's not because they're on our network. If these guys were on a completely different network or on their own, I'd still be pumping up Gary and Jim. They're knowledgeable, they're funny, they're engaging, they really do a good job. And I, if this is your first time listening to them, stick around with them, because this is a very informative and it's an informative and disarming show, and I just appreciate what you guys are doing for the baseball community in Pittsburgh. I really do.
Speaking of disarming and informative shows, Jim, I don't know if you had a chance to check it out, but I wanted to pump something else out there.
What's up?
If you haven't seen The Pivot,
oh yes,
with Ryan Clark, that interview that he did with Mike Tomlin,
one of the best. Man,
that might be the best podcast I've ever listened to of any genre.
Yeah. It was incredible. Absolutely incredible stuff.
Engaging, and it had me captivated for well over an hour. So good. So good. Highly recommend go check it out.
I spend 20 hours a week probably listening to podcasts for my job. So for me to sit down for an hour and 10 minutes or an hour and 20 minutes or whatever that was and like not move from my seat, it has to be a captivating. It has to be, a good show. And that's one of the best interviews I've ever watched.
That was great. So, hey, Eddie, thanks for jumping on with us, man. And I know we got all sappy towards the end there, but I really appreciate it. And I guess I'm a little extra emotional because I do feel like this is a good pin moment for the Pirates.
Yeah,
I do feel like there's definitely a little bit of a turning the corner happening right now.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that the team is going to finish with a good record. I'm still sticking to my 70-win prediction, but
it's going to be a fun season, I think, for the rest of this. It's going to be fun.
Well, and we just real quick, we just saw there are ways to lose still in baseball that can look quite differently. We just saw it in one series where you're going to see that with the Pirates. They're still going to have some down games. These kids are going to struggle at times, but what you are going to see is just better talent. And they might not win because they're still trying to figure some things out, but it should look better on a night-to-night basis than it has for a good while here.
Yeah, at least I think one thing I can say right now to look for in particular, if you just want to kind of have a more fun night, the way that the team is built right now, I'd say there's more good than bad, at least in the lineup. And most nights, I don't think when you look at that little graphic that comes up and says the next due up, the three that are due up, not very many nights are you going to look at that next three due up and go, oh man, we don't have a chance to score this inning.
Yeah.
And that is not something that I have been able to say since 2019.
Yep.
Oh, there have been, since 2019, there have been nights where it's been 6 deep out of 9 that you were wondering how they were going to get any base runners on. So we're past
the
that.
tide is changing a little bit, and I think this is a good pinpoint.
Yep.
And we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary of going to YouTube with DK Pittsburgh Sports and officially signing on here. So feels like a good time to just put a pin in history and remember where we are right now.
Yep.
Because I do think we're kind of getting ready to start the upward climb.
That's right, man.
And
World Series next year. Let's go, boys.
according to some. So, Jim, how do people get a hold of you, brother?
Yeah, so you know me. It's all Pittsburgh all the time. It's for the city _412 or at Jim Stamm 22. Always talking Pirates, Steelers, Penguins, Pitt Panthers, and hey, man, just like we talked about, if you're out there, you've got questions about baseball or the game. I get sarcastic sometimes, and
you no, not Jim.
And aim my vitriol toward a few people, but on the whole, listen, if you're just interested, curious, have a question, man, hit me up, DM me, or just ask me on Twitter. I'll be glad to talk to you about it.
The author of the Jaggies gets sarcastic every once in a while. I could never believe it. Never believe it.
I mean, I've had some people say to me, "Man, I was afraid to say anything to you," and I'm like, "It's not like that. Come on, those people earn that."
All right, Eddie, how do people get a hold of you if you want to be gotten a hold of, and any exciting news you can break about anything DK Sports related?
Eddie _P_412 on Twitter. That's pretty much where I'm at nowadays is Twitter. You can occasionally catch me on the Ramon Foster show when DK decides to sleep in or take a couple hours off. He doesn't take days off. He takes hours at a time.
You do a good job spot starting.
It's a lot of fun, and Ramon makes it easy. So it's a blast. But other than that, I'm all over the place on behind the scenes with DK. Maybe some live streams and live shows coming. I don't want to say too much, but we're working on some new things. Working on how we're gonna build that all up. So stay tuned to that. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I think you guys will probably be involved with it because you guys are always the guinea pigs. So, but Eddie P412 on Twitter, Instagram, all that fun stuff.
Good talking to you, buddy.
That's always fun,
how to
man.
get a hold of me
always
too.
Fun.
So without further ado, let's go ahead and have the cool little kids say, "Let's go, Bucs."
Let's go, Bucs.